Joe Texan's sitting at home and he sees you in Cuba and the nice pictures. What should he be excited about, she be excited about? How does this help them?
Joe Texan at home needs to understand that we are trying to find even more ways to get more and better paying jobs right here in the state of Texas. Farmers, for example, stand to benefit immensely if we can open up trade with Cuba that needs more rice, needs more cattle for more beef. Those who create products of all different kinds could be manufactured and sold over to Cuba. Cuba was very interested in the opportunity to work with Texas oil and gas companies for oil and gas exploration and production. And so there's job opportunities across the entire state.
$70 million they buy just in rice. Give me an idea of how big of a market this could be for Texas.
Well, if trade opens up with Cuba, the market would be potentially more than $1 billion. But that would require full open trade where they were allowed to have in a bunch of tourists. It would be a huge tourist destination zone. And that would mean a lot of high quality products shipped from Texas to Cuba. And especially if you consider the energy sector, it could be a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for Texas.
I know you've said that the embargo is a strictly congressional issue. But can you just give me an idea, when it comes to making deals, trade deals, how big of a hurdle the embargo is?
Well, for instance, we do trade deals with Mexico and Canada all the time without any barriers whatsoever. And they are easy to make, and that's why they are two of our largest trading partners. The ability to do trade with Cuba is strictly limited right now. And so the embargo impairs or limits our ability to freely trade with them. My job as governor is to try to find ways to operate within the confines of that law, working on issues such as tourism, working on issues such as agricultural products, working on issues such as medical supplies, and hence that's one of our primary focuses.
I'm sure Cuba is nice this time of year. A lot of Texans are probably hope for the day that they could go as a tourist one day. Has there been any progress with flights?
Well, first I'll tell you one interesting story, and that is while we were there one night walking around in part of the center square, we ran into some tourists from Dallas. And so we ran into some Texans there who are already taking advantage of the opportunity to visit Cuba. And some of the things that they get to experience is to see the different culture and experience the different culture. But you can also see the ways in which Cuba would be able to provide an alternative lifestyle, one that's more focused on freedom and free enterprise, if trade with Texas is enhanced.
How does tourism play into all that? Just access?
Well, listen, every single time a tourist from America shows up in Cuba, it brings with it both the sense and the appearance of what freedom and free enterprise is all about. Every time some shopkeeper talks to a Texan and sees how business is done and sees the fruits of free enterprise, it stimulates that desire, that longing to steer Cuba down the pathway of freedom and free enterprise.
Thousands of Cubans live in Texas already, fleeing the communist government. They might not be citizens, but they can legally stay here. Are you okay with that? And then also, are you expecting more if relationships become better between the countries?
Well, if relationships become better, it's going to be in part because the embargo is altered. And what that will do is, if economic opportunity is stimulated in Cuba, I think more Cubans will stay in Cuba because it's going to be a different country. A concern that Cuba has is the loss of all the talent. They are losing some of their best and brightest to areas of freedom like the United States of America. And I think that they are recognizing that reality, and I think that's one of the causes behind some of the shifts and changes you're seeing in the decisions made by the leaders in Cuba.
What do you think has been the biggest success of this trip?
The biggest success is opening the door to opportunity. Here's the reality, and that is there are going to be ongoing changes in Cuba. It's clear that Cuba is one of those countries that bases their deal-making decisions in part on relationships. And they told us just outright that they don't always do business with the best deal. They do business based in part on relationships. And so we have to build those relationships so that when free trade does open up more, and especially in the energy sector, that Texas will be in the prime spot where we can capitalize on it.
Texas is probably the most capitalistic state in the most capitalistic country in the world. What was the experience like going to still a communist dictatorship?
You know, the first appearance was one of kind of sadness and disappointment for the people there, because it was literally like going back in time, and you could see the poverty as a result of the communistic regime. But that also points out the opportunity. Where I saw poverty, I saw opportunity of what it can become if they open it up to free enterprise. And I know that the best product that Texas exports is free enterprise.
Sir, thank you so much for your time.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.